Hello, hello, everyone. Oh, Jesus, I'm dark. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. I'm not used to streaming in the day. Holy shit. Is the sun really that bad? Damn. That is not ideal. Let me see if I can just switch that. Sorry, I didn't realize it'd be so dark on camera. Give me 1 second. How's that? That's slightly better. Not really, though. Jesus, do I not have any? Man, all right. I guess we're gonna have to figure that out next time. Apologies for that. We'll be a little dark. Be a little dark today. In any case, welcome to a fabulous episode. Not fabulous, an overdue episode of the Whitepill. I just want to start off by saying sorry for missing last week. I was quite black-pilled, I'll tell you that much. Just had some personal things go down. Bullshit at my day job. Which, man, working in an office as a man has got to be one of the most demoralizing things ever. You know, it's one thing if you're actually calling the shots. You know, you're setting the meetings, you're setting the tone. It's another thing if it's just a lot of clerical work. I mean, the amount of times that I've wanted to just call the maid hotline while I'm faxing papers or scanning shit, it's just beyond insane. But anyways, that's some bullshit. I'm glad to be back now. So we're on with the show. Yeah, we're switching schedules. No longer doing the 1 a.m. streams due to, well, some things I had to switch around in my life. But yeah, we're going to be doing these streams in the morning now. Same days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So the schedule stays the same. For Wednesday, I'm thinking that we might just keep doing the double bill. So I'll usually have an episode with my co-host, Mr. Fireside Talks, which is still happening later today. On occasion, I might do a morning show as I'm doing today. So you guys will get 2 episodes for the price of 1 on Whitepill Wednesday. And so, yeah, besides that, there's not really any other changes. And yes, the other thing that I wanted to mention was, so the last episode that I did with Krutik there on the India-Canada relations, I did not push back as far as I needed to, or as hard as I needed to, and that's on me. As much as I want to blame sleep deprivation, because the episode is very early with the time difference in our time zones, I really should have just done my due diligence and pushed back a lot more on some of the things that were said. And yeah, no, that's 100% on me. I'll own that. And in any case, the episode's up if you guys want to watch it there. And yeah, as I said before, the Convoy podcast is going to be happening later tonight at 6 p.m. Well, around 6 p.m. EST. Everything will be posted on the socials there. And for today, we're going to be covering the monumental loss that our good old Canadian boys suffered over the weekend. The Olympic hockey game, for those that don't know, Canada lost to the American team, and Americans got gold for the first time in I think it's either 26 or 46 years. Which, hats off to them. You know, was a hell of a game. Canadian team had so many options to just shoot the fucking puck. I'm pretty sure at some point we actually had twice as many shots on goal as they did. So it was nonstop. And then also at one point it was a 5-on-3. I'm pretty sure, which is ludicrous how we didn't score at that moment. I really don't understand what was happening there. So yeah, I think the U.S. they just wanted it more, apparently. I mean, I don't know. I'm no analyst, so don't take my word for it. I am by no means a hockey expert. I'm merely an enjoyer. Yeah, shame they lost, but honestly, it was an overdue loss. Canada's been in a desperate need of an ego check for a very long time now. And in many ways, this loss is actually a good thing for us, which I'll be going over. And we're also going to be covering... In the last couple of days, I've realized that... or I'm coming around to the realization that Canada, as much as we love to shit on the US for having its bipolar politics, meaning, they either swing to Democrat or Republican every 4 years, and how they only have two parties to choose from. Realistically, yeah, like they have the Libertarian Party and some others, but they're not getting the vote. And Kanye wasn't able to get any votes as a write-in candidate. So at the end of the day, they have that dichotomy split. And in Canada, we like to think that because we have multiple parties, that somehow makes us special. It gives people choice, but really, it's the illusion of choice, as I've come to realize. And with the recent floor crossings as well, the MPs that are leaving the Conservative Party and joining the Liberals, it's gotten to a point where it seems as though your vote doesn't matter, like at all. It doesn't matter if whichever member of parliament you vote for, because at any moment they can just switch teams, and there's no consequence to them. It doesn't trigger a by-election. They don't lose their seat. They just comfortably walk over the other side of the aisle and reap whatever benefits they agreed to. Because there's no way these people are waking up in their mid 40s, 50s, 60s, all of a sudden with a new conscience, and a new understanding of politics, where they completely switch their allegiances, which is very strange to say the least. But yeah, we'll be covering all of that as well. I did want to cover some more information regarding the Troon shooting, the shooting that happened in BC. I think a week and a half ago. But I realized the more research that I dug into it, the more research that I did into it, rather, it's going to take a whole episode to cover a lot of the developments and the dynamics that led to that even happening. So that's going to be a whole separate episode. And as always, if you want to support the show, you can like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the links here at bio.link/whitepill. It's in the description of every episode, so you're more than welcome to check it out there. Do not feel obligated, but if you want to financially support the show, seeing as I don't read any comments or chat on stream, I really only do that towards the end if there's anything relevant. But if you want to have your question read aloud, you're more than welcome to donate on PayPal or the crypto links there. And I also have a Proton referral link in the description if you guys, want to try Proton. It's basically like an alternative to the Google Cloud. They got a password manager, I believe that's free. VPN, I don't think it's free, but a Proton Drive as well, which is kind of like Google Drive. In any case, I'm not trying to shill Proton, but if you like the product, if you want to check it out, I have a referral link there. There's also a Rumble referral link. That's my main platform. If you haven't signed up, if you haven't made an account and you want to support me there, there'll be a link in the description as well. And yeah, without further ado, let me just double check here. Let's get into the show. Okay, so before we even get into hockey, I just want to say that anyone that watched the State of the Union last night, that was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. I was dying laughing. I had to watch the replay because I couldn't, unfortunately, watch it live. But I caught Nick Fuentes' coverage of it, and it was hilarious. Trump just straight up talking about Somali pirates and then panning to Ilhan Omar as she's sitting there seething. Like, absolutely seething. Like, she was enraged. They were having shouting matches in the middle of his speech. Let me see if I can find the if I can find the clip. This has got to be some of the funniest shit. Trump was literally calling them out to their faces. It was incredible. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there they are. Just yelling. Oh, man. People say that the American political establishment is kind of a circus, but there's something just enjoyable about seeing a man stand up to his political enemies. I don't think we'd ever have this level of pageantry when it comes to Canadian politics, which may or may not be a good thing. I mean, at the end of the day, people, like adults, just shouting at each other, aping out, maybe not the best thing for for your elected representatives, but it sure as hell is hilarious. Sorry, my cat's going fucking crazy. Apologies. Yeah, Ilhan Omar just completely fucking chimping out was amazing. It was amazing. Finally seeing these people just get the reaction that they deserve. What else? Oh yeah, and the hockey team. So when they had the hockey team come in, showing off their gold medals and celebrating and all that, I was just thinking like, man, I hope those guys like didn't just have to stick around for that 3-hour speech, because they come in, they're athletes. They don't really care about politics. They're just there to shoot the puck, and then they got to sit there as Trump is just nonstop beating the drum of why his administration is the greatest in history, just sitting there awkwardly looking around like, the fuck are we doing here? It's got to be the most out of place feeling ever. It's amazing. Let's see here. Oh, and also this little clip I'm going to reference later. This is not related to Trump's thing, but this is kind of like a blink and then you miss it moment. This happened last week, where the CBC was caught on a hot mic. Their chief political correspondent said, quote, "It's all made up anyways." And which there is context for this clip, but we're not exactly sure what she's referring to, because clearly she's talking to whoever's running the show in her ear. But let's just give this a listen. Oh wait, let me just make sure we get an audio. Okay, perfect.
Some people in Alberta are kind of warming up to the Prime Minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his riding is starting to move in that direction as well.
Rosie, thank you. The CBC's chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, live in Ottawa. Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, is speaking to reporters in Montreal. Let's listen.
It's because it's all made up anyway.
So what does she mean by this? Because she's
reality.
She's talking about how Mark Carney is now getting support out west from a province that is looking to secede from Canada's union. And she's not citing any sources. She's just kind of making these grand overtures, just these editorial statements, and then followed up by, "It's all made up anyways." Now, mind you, the serious nature of this, like why this actually matters, is because the CBC is our national state broadcaster, right? These are the people that are supposed to bring us the unfettered, uncolored coverage of the news, right? That's the expectation that you have of a national broadcaster, that they would be unbiased in their coverage at the least, right? It's one thing for corporate media to try to live up to that standard, but we've all seen that's clearly not the case. However, for a state-funded media outlet, you would think that sorry, my cat's just climbing all over. You would think that for state-funded media, right, that actually says that they are objective, would not only not be found making these kind of statements, but that they would actually come up with some kind of a retraction, some kind of an explanation, maybe even an audio recording of what was being said, so that they can actually prove, she wasn't actually just making things up that she was talking about. But this has received zero coverage, zero news coverage. The CBC haven't said shit. Rosemary Barton hasn't said shit. No other news outlets picked up on this. None of them. I mean, this is the equivalent of, what is it, the PBS in America? If they had coverage like this and they had a slip up like this, and nothing. No response, no explanation, who said what, no transcripts, like absolutely nothing. Which is not just concerning, but like this is, if this is what, we make of the insinuation, right? If we're just kind of left to our own devices and we're guessing as to what she was talking about, that's not good. That really is not good. That's not a coherent strategy to informing the populace. You're not living up to your mission statement, to say the least. Okay, and more importantly, these people, like, they work because we pay them to. We pay involuntarily with our taxes for this state-funded media to exist. They owe us an explanation. You know, it's one thing for the corporate press to do it. Whatever. They can tell you to fucking kick rocks. They can do whatever the hell they want so long as it's within the confines of the law. They can say whatever the hell they want so long as it's within the confines of the law. But a national state broadcaster doesn't just get to do this. This is not normal. I'm not saying it should have received wall-to-wall coverage, but at least something. And this will come up in the show later on because it does pertain to one of the stories we're talking about. But yeah, well, I just wanted to drop that little nugget in case anyone missed it, because it went viral for a little bit on Twitter, but beyond that, it didn't really escape anywhere else. So yeah, I guess that's our state-funded media. That's the kind of country that we live in. But moving on to the big L that we took to the U.S. Olympic team. So they beat us for the gold medal match in Italy. And the boys had a lot of chances, as I said, but just couldn't pull out a win, unfortunately. Now, the reactions online were just as you would expect. All of Canada was put on suicide or maid watch, as it were, rather. Now, yes, to an extent, the Olympics are, quote-unquote, bread and circuses on steroids. You know, especially considering that Israel gets to have a team, but Russia's been banned for the last, 2-3 Olympics. Which is very strange because, number one, you know, yes, Russia's in the middle of this conflict and this war, but Israel is actually legitimately accused of perpetuating a genocide, and they get to send their athletes to the Olympics, which is a little bit batshit bonkers. But okay, I guess we're just gonna let that happen. But more importantly, Russia being absent from the Winter Games, that means that you can't really have a full, legitimate hockey tournament. If Russia's not even playing, then what's the point? You know, Russia and Canada have been the strongest hockey regions in the world for God knows how long now. So having them without there, I mean, it's like if the U.S. just dropped out of hockey. You know, it's that kind of an equivalent. And it's so strange how they have this uniquely targeted punishment towards them and nobody else, as if no other country has committed any other crimes, no other country has oppressed anyone or done anything negative, right? Which is clearly not the case, but I guess Russia is somehow uniquely evil. Now, bread and circuses aside, Olympic victories, they do serve a purpose. It's what Civ players would call a cultural victory, right? Which is why countries like China, who use every tactic possible, right, within their means, legal or otherwise, that's why they put so much pressure on their athletes to perform, because it gives them yet another talking point when they're boasting about their superiority. And it applies across the board to all nations. You know, being able to get out there on the world stage and say, we have the best XYZ, you know, what have you, hockey team, gymnastics team, whatever. It illustrates not only the amount of money that a country is willing to invest in sports programs, but that it's kind of insinuating that their way of life, right, their way of doing things, in, you know, whichever economy they have, capitalist, communist, what have you, socialist, it kind of serves as a bulwark against anybody that wants to dismiss them as a major player. And not to mention, hockey is Canada's sport, right? This is one of the few things that we are known the world over for, and we lost, right? We lost the MLB World Series, we lost the Stanley Cup, and now we've lost the Olympics. Canada has been on an L streak for a very long time now, and this Olympic match kind of cemented that. Now, after this loss, all of social media rightfully erupted with Americans just clowning Canadians. I mean, absolutely just dominating us on social media. And I'm not saying this as if I have some, as if I'm getting off on how many L's that we're taking. No, by no means. It did not bring a happy smile to my face. I was having fun with it because some of the memes were genuinely funny, like actually funny. Like the White House put out an image of a bald eagle strangling a goose. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find the image. It's not going to take too long considering just how much time has passed. Oh, Jesus Christ, he covered the entire State of the Union with this fucking thing. Oh, come on. Come on, where is it? Where's the goose? Holy shit, they tweet as much as Trump does. This is ludicrous. Are you serious? Where's the fucking goose? There it is. Yeah, quote tweeting Justin Trudeau, you can't take our country and you can't take our game. And then this. I mean, yeah, that about sums it up. That about sums it up. Let me see if I can pull up some more memes that people were making. Oh, really? Is it not going to be able to? Damn, I guess I'm not going to be able to find the memes. There's got to be something. Really? Oh, I should have saved some of these because they were just pure gold. Actually, just pure gold. But in any case, so tons of memes, just nonstop people clowning Canada, and the Canadians were seething. I mean, those that actually were taking this personally, people that were like legitimately getting upset. There was this one article. Let me see if I can find it. There was this one article that somebody posted saying that. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it. Gee, this one is insane. This one's still getting clowned. Some troon wrote an article saying it's a fucking scary time on hockey Twitter right now. Scary time? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? This fucking are they even Canadian? God, I hope not. Oh, they are. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my fucking. Of course they locked the comments. Of course they did. This is insane. And so some of the quotes from this article are actually ludicrous. Actually ludicrous. Quote, so when I got into the office one morning and saw the video of Braden Point and Hayden Fleury laughing at a joke about the Hockey Canada trial, I broke down. I spent hours watching his play, behind-the-scenes clips, and fan content of him with my dearest friends. Oh my goodness. With time, I realized that is exactly why we stay in hockey. For each other. For the community. For people like us who we know are out there and facing the same fears. When I first interviewed female and queer NHL fans for my research, whenever someone provided a sobering and honest account of hockey culture, I asked them what makes them stay in the sport in spite of the harm. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. My God, these fucking people are so insufferable. So insufferable. It's never stuck, no matter how serious either of us was, no matter how much whatever news that week stung, no matter how bleak this culture seemed. I don't fully understand why. Oh my fucking God. These people are actually insane. For how do you love a sport that doesn't love you back? That wants you dead, even? What the fuck are you on about? Oh my goodness. These people are so fucking delusional. Insane. Insane. In any case, we were getting rightfully clowned on X. Okay? Rightfully clowned. Not just because of the loss, but because of the way that some of the Canadians were reacting. Like, straight up saying, oh, at least our president isn't a pedophile. At least we don't have shootings in our schools. We literally just had a shooting. We literally just had a shooting a week ago. Not even, week and a half. These people are, honestly, I don't want to say lost cause, because I want to believe they have some redemptive quality, but in some cases they truly are. Truly are a lost cause. Now, Canadians, for as long as I can remember, have always had an inferiority complex when it comes to America. And it's only really ratcheted up since Trump has taken office, but it's existed for as long as I can remember. This idea that, oh, at least we're not the Americans. At least we're better than the Americans. At least we're more nice than the Americans. And so this inferiority complex, it has turned into a way that Canadians identify themselves, right? The way that they define themselves as quote-unquote not American. But the problem with this is that if people define themselves by their opposition to something, then you lack the focus to identify yourself as standing for something in the first place. You know, and that quote that I said earlier, oh, at least our president isn't a pedophile. Which one? Look, say what you want about Trump. There's no empirical proof that he's a pedophile. Even with everything that's come out of the Epstein files, there's nothing really to make that statement factually true. You're kind of making a couple leaps there to say that, right? I'm not defending his actions at the island. I'm not defending his relationship with Epstein, but just objectively, if we're talking facts, he's not a pedophile. Like, Joe Biden literally sniffed girls' hair. That was an actual thing that he did. And there's also some maybe potential story with him, like, showering with his granddaughter or some shit like that. That was in her diary that they tried to leak. Right? And not to mention, our leader, our own prime minister, is a globalist banker, okay, who fooled the boomer populace to vote for him by yelling elbows up and saying that he would stand up to Trump, only to bend over for him in the following months. I mean, there's clips of him side by side, right, at rallies going elbows up, elbows up, elbows up, right, doing all that whole fucking shtick. And then not even a month later, he's in the Oval Office. He's congratulating President Trump on his ability to lead the free world, to be an exemplary candidate, like literally getting down on his knees and doing the political equivalent of blowing him. Okay, so all that elbows up shit didn't exactly pan out, and I'm saying that, right, just as an example to say, people talk shit about Trump here. Like, look, Carney's a piece of shit on his own. Okay, he's got plenty of unredeeming qualities. So to say this, oh, at least our leader isn't a pedophile, fucking check your ego at the door and look at your own leader. Okay, like it doesn't take a genius to figure out why Carney's also a piece of shit, right? And they also make this claim. I saw some tweets of people saying, oh, at least we have free healthcare. As I've said before on the show, 100,000 people have died waiting for healthcare since 2018, waiting to see a specialist since 2018. And our estimated MRI waiting time is an average between 10 to 19 weeks. That's 5 months. That's up to 5 months. And some provinces like Manitoba reaching up to 26 weeks. That's almost 6 months. In the US, the typical wait time is anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, or at least, according to this Perplexity search. Free healthcare? What the fuck are you talking about? First of all, it's not free. We're paying for it. Right? It's a hidden cost because we're getting taxed out the ass for it and we're not paying out front. We're not paying out of pocket. But anybody that's been to a Canadian ER knows just how awful these places are. The extremely long wait times, the amount of cases that we've seen of Canadians going to the ER and then, being told that there's like a 6-8 hour wait and them going home because, well, I have to fucking get up for work, or I got kids to take care of, or I got to walk the dog, or I just, I can't stay here for that amount of time for this treatment and it doesn't seem all that serious. Then they go home and they fucking die. There was a guy that posted on X, I forget his name. I'll see if I can pull it up here. Story of Canadian man who left ER without being checked, only to die at home days later. There was a guy that came in with like heart palpitations or something, like mid-20s, right? I think mid-20s or early 30s. By all means, a decently healthy guy. He wasn't obese or anything. I think it's Adam Bourgogne. Yeah. Yeah, this is infamous. He said, thankfully, it wasn't a heart attack. Quote, had a bit of a health scare last night, but thankfully it wasn't a heart attack. Not sure what it was, though, because once they made sure I wasn't dying, I was thrown into the waiting room, and 6 hours later, I said, fuck it, and went home. Canadian healthcare, folks, best in the world. I'll have to shave the rest of my chest, I guess. And he died days later. Let me see if I can pull up his X profile. I think it might still be up. Whoops. Yeah, it's this guy right here. This is the last post that he made. And now he's fucking dead. An otherwise healthy, 39-year-old, it said? Let's see if we can find the CBC story. Lawyer for family of man who died languishing in same ER 16 years ago calls latest incident disheartening. The death of a middle-aged man who spent about 8 hours waiting for care at a Winnipeg emergency department has some patient advocates raising questions about what the hospital is doing to prevent similar instances. They can't do anything. They can't do anything because our system is fundamentally flawed. The last time a patient died while waiting for care at the emergency room happened in February 2023. The fact that this is even happening at all is insane. In a country like Canada, with the potential wealth that we have people dying just waiting in the ER. It's one thing for people to shit on the US for their medical debt and whatnot, and it being the sole reason, or like the number one reason that people file into bankruptcy. I'd rather be bankrupt than dead. Okay, I'd much rather be poor than dead. Because at least poor, right, there's a starting point. There's a chance that I can make my way back. Right, where I can get even eventually. But if you're dead, well, you're fucking dead. And this is just a normal occurrence in Canada. This is insane. It's crazy. It's crazy that we tolerate this. It's crazy that this exists as a dynamic in Canada at all. And the fact that people then turn around and say that our healthcare system is better, are you fucking delusional? It's nothing short of maddening. It really is nothing short of maddening for people to make this claim. Right? So there's the healthcare angle. And then also recently, stats came out saying that Alabama, America's 46th poorest state, has a higher GDP per capita ratio than Canada. Let me see if I can pull up this article here. Oh, come on. I hate the fucking paywalls, man. These goddamn paywalls. Is it really gonna block me because I'm using a fucking VPN? No way. That's insane. Apologies, guys. I had this link up ready to go and everything, but apparently it doesn't like VPNs. Oh, and this one just doesn't, straight up doesn't load. Anyways, there's a big expose. This went viral for a couple of days. Canada is essentially poorer than Alabama, according to some metrics, right? The main one being GDP per capita. So that's the share of the GDP per person, essentially. And our ratio is lower than Alabama. It is one of the poorest states in the US. And all of the quotes, all of the headlines reading, "Oh, how did this happen? How did this happen?" It's what a surprise. How could this happen? How could this possibly be the case? Unexpectedly, Canada becomes poorer than Alabama. Let me see if I can find the exact quote that they used for it. Yeah, out of nowhere, Canada became poorer than Alabama. How is that possible? Out of nowhere? Really? Yeah, you're the corporate press. It's your fucking job to hold the powerful accountable. You're the fourth estate. The whole reason you guys go to journalism school and take your English degrees and fucking go all those cocktail dinners and everything, like, the whole point is you're supposed to be in tune with what's happening in this nation and where it's headed and why the power dynamics exist as they do. That's your job as a journalist. Your job is to speak to power, speak truth to power. And they're sitting around asking, "Oh my God, how did this happen? Holy shit, out of nowhere." Out of nowhere, anybody that's been paying attention to what's happening in Canada for the last decade plus knows exactly why this happened. We keep stepping on rakes. We keep getting raked. We keep raking ourselves, as I've said before. And to whose benefit? To who? The wealthy Laurentian elite? The fucking all the monopolies? Because I'm certainly not benefiting. Nobody in my life I know is benefiting from this. And so, quote unquote, out of nowhere, Canada becomes poorer than Alabama. Like, yeah, no shit. You got millions of new immigrants taking low-skilled jobs away from Canadians, so you're denying young people entry into the market, right? You have stagnating housing supply, and because of all these new immigrants, housing for everybody just skyrockets in prices. It's only now started to cool off, and even then, it's a fraction of what it could be. Right? Entire industries are kneecapped by our fucking carbon tax. The carbon tax that has only saved enough emissions to cover China's emissions for, I think, like 2 hours. Or I think maybe even like a day. Not even a day. That's how much carbon we've saved with our carbon tax. Wow, that's so great. That's so cool. I'm paying fucking $9 for a head of lettuce. Meanwhile, China can pump out as many coal factories, as much plastic as they want out into the world, as many emissions as they want into the world, and we're somehow the good guys. People are paying out the ass for everything, and this is somehow supposed to be better? Our government refuses to drill for oil and excavate our abundant natural resources under the guise of environmental protection? I mean, need I say more? Really? Right, and I'm just going to be going down a list here, right? Like of people that were defending Canada during the hockey, the loss in hockey, because the reason that the two are linked, right, is because Canadians just fell back on the whole, oh, at least we're not America. We're much better than America. We're much better off than America. We do things different here in Canada. No, we're actually on a generational L. We're on a losing streak, a major one at that. And not only is it like a losing streak, it's one thing if we had the US like actually putting the screws to us, which they're not. They're lightly putting their thumb on the scale. Okay, if they really wanted to destroy us, they could. They really could, and it wouldn't take all that much effort. But the important thing is that we're doing it to ourselves. Like, none of this needs to happen. We don't need the carbon tax. We don't need to be avoiding, drilling and the excavation of natural resources. We could be so much more well off. We don't need to have people dying in ERs waiting for healthcare. And that's not even getting into the MAID, right? That we have record high numbers of people opting to kill themselves on the taxpayer dollar because they're either depressed or they just can't overcome seasonal depression, which I guess is the same thing. But there was a recent case where like a fucking 26-year-old that was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, right? Which God knows if he even had it. God knows if that diagnosis was even correct. He decided to kill himself. He's dead now. And his family is speaking out. I'll see if I can find the article later on, but like Canadians are we're literally killing ourselves, figuratively and literally. And to whose benefit? Which one of us is actually benefiting from this? It's nothing short of insanity. So that's the way that it links to hockey, right? It's this initial reaction that people had. Oh, at least we're not America. We're much better off. No, we're not. No, we are not. And this loss, the reason that it's important, the reason that it was needed, is because Canada's been overdue for a gut check, for an ego check, for the longest time. Okay, all this fake nationalism that Carney has tried to espouse, that he's tried to get people to buy into, it doesn't work. You don't get to destroy the nation for 10 plus years, right? Through mass migration, through all these failed economic policies, through these failed social programs, running the deficit at an all-time high, the debt on which is insane. You don't get to do all of that and stamp out people's freedoms and rights, and then also in the same breath say, oh, we're the greatest nation on earth. No, the fuck we're not. No, the fuck we're not. Not right now, anyways. Here's another instance. Yep, more proof. 25,000 people from some of the most dangerous countries on earth received refugee status without ever meeting a government employee. We have an open doors policy when it comes to immigration in Canada. People are just coming over the fucking border. And not just the border with the states. We do have people that are crossing in illegally, but I mean just, generally speaking, they're just coming in. 25,000 people. This is recent. This is in the last couple of days. This article was published. Without ever meeting a government employee, what the fuck are we doing? Like, with all due respect, what the fuck are we doing? Why is this considered the status quo in Canada? We're letting in tens of thousands of people, millions over the years, completely unfettered access to social programs, to healthcare. The recent estimate by the Parliamentary Budget Office was that we're going to reach, I think, $1.5 billion in terms of healthcare expenditures on refugees, immigrants, and just all the people that are non-citizens. $1.5 billion going to healthcare of people that just came here. They're getting better treatment than Canadian citizens. How is this in any way okay? I mean, that's not even to mention the millions that have come here under false pretenses of student visas or refugee claims. Like that one case out in BC where they had 14 people arrested on counts of extortion. And immediately, as soon as they were arrested, they claimed refugee status because they're trying to game our immigration system. They're trying to buy themselves 2 more years of time in the courts so they can stay here in Canada. And they're like, we're the best country on earth? Fuck off. No, you don't get to make those kind of ludicrous claims while living in this kind of country. Right? And don't get me wrong, I take no pride in this whatsoever. I don't particularly enjoy having to sit here and talk about this shit. The news media is dragging its feet. The National Post, yeah, they'll cover these stories, but they're really one of the few outlets that is actually, trying to speak some truth to power. But even then, like, this isn't even a Canadian-owned newspaper anymore. I'm pretty sure National Post is bought out by some American conglomerate. So we can't even have any national pride in that. But the majority of the news media, they're not even covering this. I would much rather, right, be living in a country where we didn't have to discuss this, where this wasn't a problem, where we were winning hockey games, where we aren't letting our own citizens die in the fucking ER. That makes me concerned. That makes me watch out for my health, because now I'm thinking, God forbid anything happens to me or a member of my family, and I hear that they're in ER, that they have to go to an ER. Now I start recounting all those stories of people dying because they didn't get the care they needed. The amount of people that are just lying out on beds in the hallways because there's not enough room in the actual, like, the rooms themselves. It's nothing short of disgraceful for a country to be run like this. Nothing short of disgraceful. And I know that as Canadians, we kind of get numb to it because over the years, enough of these stories pile on and it just kind of turns into the same background radiation. But this cannot be understated. Okay, Canada is in a death spiral. And we have been for a very, very long time. And if we don't, right, don't take my word for it. The Parliament Budget Office said this as well. Canada is in an unsustainable economic model. We are operating in ways that are not just, like, dangerous, but if we do not turn around our whole way of existence, or at least in large scale, if we don't make some critical adjustments in time, there will be no turning point. There will be no point where we can turn back. And there was also a story recently in which, let me see if I can find it in my bookmarks. This is a case that went before the Human Rights Tribunal in BC, where a man has been charged to pay $750,000 for misgendering someone. $750,000. Let me see if I can find it here, because I've bookmarked quite a few stories since. Oh yeah, there's one of the memes I wanted to show you guys. I mean, look at this. Oh God. A second goal has hit the Tim Hortons, sir. Oh my fucking God. That's too good. Oh, here's the, I found it. I found it. Okay, let's give this a quick listen. Oh wait, I'm probably gonna get copyright for that. Let me cut out the sound. Bombed that whole stupid fucking country, hit every ugly player on that fuck ass team with a semi truck. Wow. Great reaction. This kind of petty sore winner bullshit from the Trump administration is exactly why some of our Olympic athletes spoke out against Trump, and I'm so glad they did, so the whole world can see that we aren't all maggots. Fuck Donald Trump and fuck MAGA. Much love for Canada. Just delusional. At least I'm Canadian and I'll never have to wake up as an American, thank God. Yeah, wow, what a relief. Nah, we not. I need to see USA team kids die in school. Wow, okay, that's all right. Americans are finally good at something other than school shootings, war, pedophilia, or fascism. Congrats. You can just tell these people, they're fucking seething. Fuck Gaudreau's family and his kids. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. Because Gaudreau, his brother, I'm pretty sure, he died in a car crash. Yeah. They were cycling, him and his brother. and they died by a drunken and enraged driver. And at the end of the hockey game, when they came out with the whole team, I apologize for making this into a tangent. I really should have played this video earlier, but let me just see if I can find the photo here. Might as well do it while we're here. There's a photo of all of them on the ice celebrating. Let me see if I can find it. Come on. There it is. They took his jersey, right? His brother's jersey and his kids. You can't see the one here, but there's a kid right here. And they took him on the ice. They're celebrating for him because he couldn't be there. And we have people fucking posting shit like this. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Have some fucking decency. Insane. That's an insane thing to say. Yeah. Wow. Real original. Fuck the stupid United States of America. Real original. Oh, instead of posting, this guy posted a screenshot because he's too pussy to actually say what he wanted to say. Quote, kill yourself to the tune of USA chants. Great. You can tell the United States men's hockey team genuinely think they deserve to live. Like, these are our Canadians? Really? If you make 51st state jokes, I'm going to assume you're a Trumpy because why are you so happily bragging about the Republican government's plan of invading another nation? If you're so woke and anti-Trump, why are you celebrating his threats of occupation? Oh my God. The Leafs have lost the plot, man. You know, it's one thing for us to... It's one thing for us to be known for importing Infinity Indians, but this completely shattered the illusion for many people that Canadians are nice, which honestly is overdue. We've been relying on that reputation for far too long and not actually working to make it a reality. You know, the average Canadian, they're fairly nice in regards to the interactions I have. You know, if somebody's pulled over on the side of the road, someone will eventually come over and, you know, check on them if they're okay. Neighbors helping each other in snowstorms and whatnot. It still does tend to happen, right? This niceness does exist, but to see this kind of display on the internet, the niceness only goes so far. And it's not even just niceness. You know what it is? Some people have pointed out it's politeness. But being polite doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a jackass, that you're not an asshole on the inside. Being polite is just, you know, that's your outwardly facing presentation. The arrogance begins. This is why the world hates America. No class. No class? You guys were literally cheering at the top of your lungs that Trump is a fascist. These people are saying, hope you faggots have another 9/11. Wow, that's so tasteful. And oh yeah, there's all the DMs that the person got for making these comments. Insane. Insane. Doesn't surprise me though. Doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of Canadians that were truly act just off the wall seething because of how they felt about this, and they are rightfully getting clowned. We are rightfully getting clowned for this. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, here's a tweet that someone said. It's wild watching emotionally dysregulated Canadian libtards crash out and suffer a national identity crisis just because their team at the Bread and Circus Bowl couldn't put as much rubber in a net as the team they've psychotically hallucinated as being rostered by 25 Donald Trumps. Yeah, that's basically it. That sums it up. That sums it up. We truly, as a country, have, to an extent, people that live here that have a legitimate inferiority complex when it comes to the U.S. And they will use every excuse every trick in the book to say that Canada is somehow better than the US. And as I've shown so far, we don't really seem to be doing all that well. If people are dying in our waiting rooms, right? Here's another L that we've taken recently. One of the most historic arenas in Toronto is getting shut down for a fucking soccer stadium. Not even a stadium, but it's called, I think it's called like a launch point or something. It's going to be used as a training center for the Major League Soccer in the Major League Soccer League in North America. This arena right here has been in the community for decades, has seen countless hours, hundreds of like just countless hours of kids learning how to play hockey, having fun with their families. You know, this is a staple in the community. They've received little to no funding from the city for their programs, for their upkeep, for their maintenance, and they're shutting it down. You know, like, you don't get to live in a country and say that hockey's our number one sport, hockey's our number one passion, it's our number one pastime, and then do shit like this in the biggest city in Canada, in arguably the most economically rich city in Canada. You can't have those two things together. You don't, like, once again, we've floated too far for too long on our reputation as being the nice peacekeepers who are goated at hockey. We actually have to, you know, put some work into that. You actually have to make that a reality if you want people to believe it. You can't just keep yelling it at the top of your lungs and hope that it works. So the fact that this is even a possibility in a city like Toronto is so disgraceful. The fact that there are even people on city council right now that voted for this, and there have been rounds of consultations where they've heard from community members, and there's an ongoing effort for people to save this arena, as they rightfully should. I wouldn't be surprised if people started chaining themselves to the door once they bring out the bulldozers, because like this is insane. We have former NHL Hockey Hall of Famers coming out against this. People that are like objectively saying this is a bad idea. You can't just demolish this. This arena has stood for so long and has been a pinnacle of that community for so long that you can't just get rid of it. And here we are. And here we are. Right? If you want to see some more examples for like Canada's absolutely raped, I did one of my first episodes when I had started launching the Canada First aspect of the show. This was episode 49. If you want to see it on Rumble, I get into a lot more detail in terms of why we've just been taking generational L's for the longest time now. But this list that I'm making through it's been included there. So if you want to check the episode out, it's episode number 49. By all means, give it a listen. And here's some more stories. Remember that kid that I told you about that was 26 years old? Quote, a doctor took my son. This 26-year-old was denied assisted death in Ontario, but died by maid in BC. So he couldn't get his assisted suicide in Ontario. So he decided to go to BC, which clearly has some more lax laws, and they allowed him through the system. 26 years old. This guy was diagnosed with BPD, right, bipolar disorder, and seasonal depression. Both things, right, both of which are manageable. Right, for anyone that's still dealing with seasonal depression right now, because it is an absolutely real thing that happens in Canada. If you don't get enough sunlight, if you don't get out, you know, enough time outside, if you're not actually physically active during the winter months, and you're just sitting there watching your computer, you will become extremely depressed, especially over the years as this, you know, compounds. Start taking vitamin D and also take vitamin K2 because it helps activate vitamin D. But just find something to do in the winter. Even if it's something as simple as just walking outside to your park every day for 20 to 30 minutes. Even if it's something as simple as that, that will make a world of a difference. Because look, going to bars and drinking and smoking and all that, like, yeah, sure, but that's all temporary. That's only going to temporarily lift your spirits up until you have to get up in the morning the next day for work. But if you actually actively want to make a difference in your health, excuse me, if you actually want to make a legitimate difference so that you're not feeling the seasonal depression, you need to find something to do, something physical, ideally. Go to a gym, sign up for a fucking Pilates class. You know, literally do anything, but never kill yourself. Never kill yourself. Do not give up. Okay? Because there are people right now in the hospital or elsewhere begging for the chance that you have now at life. So never, ever, ever commit suicide. Never. And the fact that we are funding this, that taxpayer dollars are going towards this shit, is nothing short of disgusting. It is abhorrent. It is abhorrent. And the rates at which that people are using the MAID program to kill themselves with, it's only escalating. It's only getting worse and worse throughout the years. And the problem is that the healthcare industry is in a perverted way kind of incentivized to do this because, oh, here comes my cat. They're incentivized to do this because treating somebody for, like having them go through the suicide program, it's a lot cheaper for them to kill themselves than to deal with long-term care. You know, whether they have to be in bed for days on end, whether they have to be on medication for the rest of their life, it's a lot cheaper and a lot less costly in terms of time, a lot less time consuming for them to just kill themselves. So whether or not this is like an actual incentive in the Canadian healthcare industry, until we actually see some whistleblower proof, I'm going to hold off on making that claim. But it certainly seems to be the case that the more that people use this self-assisted government-assisted suicide program, it means that there's going to be less people on the waiting lists. It means there's going to be less people in the ER. So it does create, to an extent, like a soft incentive for this program to be expanded. Just for the savings alone, which is, I mean, my God, if we're even at that point thinking about human life, that's how we're valuing it. I mean, look, for all I know, this guy's a piece of shit, but I wouldn't want him to kill himself. I wouldn't want him to die. I don't know him personally. I don't know anything about him. But he could be, he's got a family. He's got a mom and dad, brothers and sisters, maybe. Coworkers that miss him. He could have started a family, led a constructive life. And now he can't. And these stories are happening every single day. Not just that, we recently also had a case in Quebec where a bald non-binary filed a claim with the Quebec Human Rights Tribunal that when they were signing up for a barber, right, when they were looking for a barber shop, the one that they found only had options for male or female haircuts. Which, yes, men and women approach their hair care, if we can even call it that, their hair, right? They approach them very differently. Female haircuts take longer. They're a little bit more intricate. I don't know if that's even the word that you would use. Right? A guy is probably just going to get a buzz cut. You know, just pull out the clippers, fucking 1-2, and you're done. A woman, you know, whether she wants to get treatment or her roots colored or whatever the fuck women's do, get a blowout, whatever the fuck that is. Right? They're a little bit more complicated. So that's why they have that split between male and female. But this fucking non-binary piece of shit, this thing, who has a tattoo on their head, who doesn't even need a haircut in the first place, sued this place. She went to the Human Rights Tribunal saying that this was discriminatory and forced them to pay $500, which, like, look, the amount is not the significant thing here. The fact that this was even heard as a serious claim is insane. How did nobody in the court, while looking at this person, realize, oh, they're just looking to make a buck. They're looking to just cause some controversy. They're looking to just stir some shit up. Because why the fuck are you going to a barber if you're bald? Why? What kind of hair care are you going there for? What the fuck are you on about? But they claim discrimination and they won the lawsuit. Quote, advocates hope ruling prompts change after client forced to book either men and women's haircut. Oh my God, the humanity. That you had to choose a gender. Holy shit, what a fucking travesty. And this is where our human rights tribunals are? This is what they're busy doing? Yeah, Canada absolutely deserves to get made fun of. We absolutely do. If this is the kind of shit that we're willing to entertain, if this is what we're willing to put our national resources on, the fact that we're spending any time even talking about this, the fact that I'm even talking about this, is insane. It's nothing short of insane. Why is this normal in Canada? Why do we tolerate these fucking things? These fucking people. When Alex suddenly began experiencing hair loss, they thought a haircut would do just the thing to keep them feeling confident again. But they didn't realize trying to book an appointment at a Montreal area salon would lead them to a years-long legal challenge. When they were talking to the news, they said that the pain that they felt, that they experienced, having to go through with this, right, to go through with the ordeal, they said that, oh, I couldn't work. I couldn't work because they rejected my identity and I was going through such an awful emotional time. Bro, if you're going through a spiral after booking a haircut and having this kind of an ordeal, maybe, just throwing it out there, maybe you're not fit for society. Maybe you're mentally unwell and you need to be checked into an asylum. You know, if something as little as a haircut is enough to set you off that you can't work for a year, that you're experiencing emotional distress to that extent, then maybe you shouldn't be in society. Maybe you actually just can't handle it. Maybe you should be taken out and put into an asylum. I mean, that's just my thought. Let me see if I can find that video of them talking about it.
Mignot says they are satisfied with a ruling by Quebec's Human Rights Tribunal. Mignot complained that a salon's online booking system was discriminatory to non-binary customers. It was ordered to pay $500.
To see the tribunal side with me on that and say that, you know what, non-binary people shouldn't be forced to pick men or women, and it's not fair for them. I was so relieved and happy to hear that.
It all started 2 years ago when Mignot wanted to book a haircut at Station 10 Salon in Longueuil. Customers are asked to choose whether it's for men, women, children, or someone with a beard or braids, something Mignot refused to do.
It's a repetition of a trauma that I keep living over and over again. And it cuts me off from society.
They filed a complaint with Quebec's Human Rights Commission. The salon offered Mignot 3 free haircuts and changed its website to include a non-gendered option. Its co-owner says he's surprised the issue wound up in court.
Well, it's $500. It's not a big amount, but it is a precedent, and many, even our clients, are sending us money, asking us or telling us we should fight back in appeals. But we're a small business. We're not politicians.
There are so many issues.
I'm not even going to get into the commentary there, but yeah, they even offered 3 free haircuts. They offered 3 free haircuts, and that still wasn't good enough. They added a non-binary option on the website, still wasn't good enough. And you know, I heard, and I'll see if I can find it, but there was somebody that managed to find the other these other rulings that the Quebec Human Rights Tribunal had with this person at the center of it, which the fact that this didn't make it on the news is insane. But apparently this fucking person has been going around and making these claims to various businesses so that they can get paid out. They go around to them, just like those gays did with the cake, right, in the US, that whole Supreme Court case. right? They went around to a business until they eventually found one that wasn't willing to bake a cake for their gay wedding, and then they took it to the Supreme Court. This seems to be like the exact same thing. Let me see if I can find it. Is there any evidence that has been going around to multiple businesses to claim discrimination against non-binary people? Provide links to all sources, including X posts. Because some super sleuth on X, as as is the majority of these stories, they managed to find this information. And come on, Grok, show me what you got. Show me what you got. But this is just beyond ridiculous. When I found out that the person that was making these claims was bald, that just sent me. I was like, I can't believe it. I just, you've lost the plot. You've lost the plot. And the fact that the news media didn't cover these instances, these false claims that they've made in the past, I mean, that just says everything. They're willing to stand up and say, oh my God, look at the discrimination this non-binary person faced, but they're not even willing to dig deeper into the story and see, hey, maybe this person's actually just a piece of shit. Maybe they're just lying. Maybe they're just making this up. Maybe they actually don't feel discriminated against. Maybe they just like the lawsuits. Maybe they just like the attention. And if you're so mentally ill that you do this as a pastime, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Oh, sorry, 1 second. Oh. Cat was going crazy. Yeah, it says here, yes, there is evidence from multiple media reports indicating that Alex has a history of filing discriminatory complaints against various businesses related to the lack of non-binary or gender-neutral options in their services forms or booking systems. They've filed approximately 100 complaints against businesses since at least 2017. Oh, this is in French. Wait, hold on. "100 complaints against businesses." Where's the 100? No. There was somebody that had a super sleuth moment. No, that's the okay. I think this might be it. No. No, see, this is just talking about people that had other complaints. No. I remember seeing a post that basically said this person went around making these claims to multiple businesses. Unable to work for a full year and a half because of the stress caused by booking the haircut. Quote, "It was a time when I was extremely vulnerable. I was on the verge of falling into total disability. It took me a year and a half before I could return to work." Okay. Insane. Oh, he was claiming the loss of income, $12,500. And they awarded him $500 in moral damages. No, because I remember hearing that there was somebody that genuinely was able to find all these other claims that they tried to make, but I guess that just must have been unsubstantiated. So even if that's not true, which it doesn't seem like to be the case, the fact that they're making this claim right here with a fucking barber, you're mentally insane. And I'm not going to waste any more time on this story because I've given it too much attention already. not to mention, in terms of Canada taking L's on the Olympics, we were found cheating in curling. I mean, the ruling wasn't that, but if you looked up the footage of the Canada curling team, right? This is a meme that's been going around for the longest time. There's a photo, right? Somebody made a stamp of this, but there's a photo where he's putting his finger on the rock. And for those who don't know, curling is where you go from you're essentially doing lawn bowling but on the ice. Lawn bowling is you're trying to get to a let me save the explanation of lawn bowling. Curling is when you have a sheet of ice, right? Let me see if I can find it. Curling rink. Oh my god. So you have a sheet of ice, and you slide down these rocks, right? They're not usually in this form. They usually look like more like a teapot handle. You slide these rocks down the ice, and you're trying to get them as close to the white dot in the center as possible. And the difficulty is, thinking how it's going to twist and curl, and you got people that are sweeping to melt the ice slightly so that it goes faster. It's a whole sport. Played it before. It's actually quite fun. Much harder than it looks, so is actually like it's not a physically demanding sport, but it's actually quite difficult to play. And so there's this photo that was going around of this incident where the Canadian curler used his finger to push the rock. And then when he got called out on it, he says, "Oh, I didn't fucking touch it." Gets into the face of his opponent, starts yelling back and forth. Oh my god, what an embarrassing display of unsportsmanlike conduct. Holy shit, dude. You're representing Canada as a nation, and this is how you behave? Disgusting. And there was no ruling coming down from the refs because they didn't see it. There's no such thing as instant replay in curling. They can't really review it. But to see that right there, my god, that is the least Canadian thing ever. What a piece of shit. Like, this is the kind of shit that sets back our nation. This is the kind of shit that makes us look like a joke on the world stage. We're doing it to ourselves at this point. Honestly. We're doing it to ourselves at this point. And yet another story coming out in the last couple of days. So now, because we can't get enough recruits for our army, we're taking the rejects from the American army. We're encouraging them to come over and to apply to go to our army. This is a story by the Canadian Press. Immigration Department helping Canadian military recruits recruit foreign military members. So instead of reassessing, hey, maybe we should think about how do we bolster people from from within Canada, people that will have national pride, people that will believe in the mission of Canada, that will have allegiance to the flag. No. Now we're opening the door to fucking foreign military members. Some of which, right, according to the article, on another front, Duval-Lantoine said the military's latest recruiting efforts might be aimed at attracting American military personnel who have grown wary of the U.S. government's open hostility towards female service members, as well as those who are racialized or trans. So we're getting black troon soldiers. That's who we're recruiting? Really? This is who we're recruiting for our military to defend the Great White North? We're taking the rejects from the U.S. Army? If you can't make it in the U.S. Army, you go to the Canadian Army? Really? This is where we're at? Insane. It's nothing short of insane. How the fuck is this even our policy? Why are we taking rejects? Our standards should be among the highest in the world. These are the people that, if push comes to shove, they have to defend our nation, and we're taking the rejects from the U.S. Army? Insane. It's nothing short of insane. Nothing short of insane. Bear with me for a moment, guys. I just have to step away for 2-3 minutes, okay? Just give me 1 second, and I'll be right back. And we're back. Apologies for that, folks. Just had to step away for a moment. But yeah, so... now we're filling our military ranks with fucking rejects. It's nothing short of insane. And then here's another fucking whammy. Another church burned down. Another Christian church. Let's add that one to the list. We've had 100 plus or so burned down since what, 2018 it was? Or 2019 when this started? Another Montreal church burned down. Why is it always churches? Why is it always churches and not synagogues or any other religious house? Why is it always churches? Why is it always Christian churches? Never a mosque? I mean, really, like, is nobody in Canada at all curious as to why this keeps happening? Why it just seems to be always Canadian churches, or sorry, Christian churches? It's a mystery. It's just it's a mystery. Look at this. Look at this church. Look at this. Look at this house of God and how beautiful it looks. Fucking burned down. Thankfully, no victims and nobody died. But Jesus Christ, like, are we just gonna tolerate this? We're just gonna assume this is all. It's a happy coincidence. It just happens to be the state of affairs here in Canada that we accept this to be our reality. What the fuck are we talking about? Nothing short of insane, man. Nothing short of insane. And this is something that also, another story, this is something that I remember reading about long ago, but like in Canada, the land of open secrets, it's just one of the things that falls into the background radiation. Like I said, you get inundated with these stories enough times. This absolute, the tragic nature of existence in Canada, it happens enough times to you, and you kind of keep forgetting about all the major stories. We had a major wildfire. Right, a major wildfire that displaced thousands of people. And it turns out, right, during their investigation as to why the fire was as bad as it was, they found that the firemen didn't have the correct attachments to use the fire hydrants. So they had to stand there and watch as the fire raged on because they couldn't do anything. They couldn't access the water because they didn't have the attachments. And I'm not putting the onus on the firemen. They're doing the Lord's work, okay? These people are volunteering, getting paid a teacher's salary, maybe just above, right, to go out and to put their lives on the line so that we, if God forbid we're ever caught in a fire, so that we could be safe. Okay, these people are literally, they're on the front lines defending us and our property to make sure that we can all live safely. And they don't even have the right tools to deal with these issues. Let's give this a listen.
Parks fire, or prior to the fire, Parks Canada ordered hydrants for Jasper with a different thread on the side ports than the thread used by all municipalities in Alberta and British Columbia. They only had 7 adapters which were available for hydrants to go from their thread to BAT. Our crews observed Petro-Canada, a mobile trailer park burned down and could not engage due to being able to connect to hydrants. Our crew were credited by a captain with the Jasper Fire Department for saving what's left of the downtown because they were at a hydrant that did have an adapter and were able to engage impingements on buildings. No secondary water sources were staged for when the hydrants would go down. The lesson learned from past WUI events is that it's normal practice to have water supply is pre-positioned. Prior to the park's fire,
because of a fucking attachment. Because of an attachment. Because of a fucking fire hose attachment. And there is a pencil pusher somewhere out there in the bureaucratic layers of Canadian government that is at fault for this. Whether it's Parks Canada or whomever. The amount of property damage that was sustained, there was only one death. Thank God there was only one. But in terms of the damage, let's look down here. 25,000 residents, visitors, and workers evacuated, displaced an estimated 2,000 people long term, with many still in recovery and rebuilding phases as of early 2026. 358 structures destroyed out of approximately 1,000 total, so about a 30% loss. Includes homes, businesses, hotels, and other buildings. Heavy losses in neighborhoods, where 800 to 820 units were affected, either destroyed or uninhabitable. Tourism-related businesses, significant loss. 70% of the town site was protected, including critical infrastructure, thank God. 255 assets or damaged park assets were destroyed. 132 deemed total losses, includes staff housing, utilities, buildings, highways, roadways, bridges, docks, trails, day use areas, campgrounds, exhibits, and interpretation panels. 32,000, well, around 33,000 hectares burned. Because of, and look, I'm not saying all of this could have been mitigated, but a good chunk of it could have been mitigated if they had the attachments, or if they didn't, if they didn't had it set up the way that it was. Right, whether or not it means that the firemen needed the attachments, or if the actual fire hydrants themselves were made of a different standard. Just under 1.3 billion Canadian dollars in damage. Oh, these are insured losses, rather. Insane. Could have been completely mitigated. Completely. And yet this shit happens. And a good chunk of the wildfires that we've had in the last couple of years that the Liberals have liked to turn around and say, oh, this is happening because of climate change. A good chunk of them could have been mitigated if our forests were actually well managed. If our forest, what is it called? I think it's just Parks Canada, I believe they're called. If they actually got their shit together and managed the wildfires better. Right, there have been multiple instances during these investigations where they come out and they say, oh, we haven't done a dry burn in a very long time. Well, if enough of that dead wood manages to just lay there for long enough, you're going to get a fire. Right? These forests are not properly dealt with. They just leave them alone, and then are we really surprised that any of these wildfires happen? And then when they do happen, the firemen don't even have the right tools to do their fucking job. I mean, it's nothing short of insane that we're literally doing this to ourselves. Like, Canada is the land of the raped. And we absolutely deserve to be clowned on the world stage over this hockey loss. Because it's very indicative of the way that things are in Canada. We're just doing it to ourselves for no fucking reason. Right? And in some ways, I'm kind of glad we lost. Not that I'm glad that the men's hockey team is dealing with that shame and all that, or that I have some kind of fetish at losing to the American. No. It's nothing like that. I'm glad that we lost because it really shows Canadians for who they are in this moment. A lot of Canadians couldn't handle that loss, and you saw that compilation that I played earlier. Just completely losing their minds, issuing death threats to people. We have the curling team fucking cheating on the international world stage. Really? Like, this is where we are as a country? This is what we're doing? So, this loss and the reaction to it that people have had on X, it is well deserved. It is high time that Canadians took a look at ourselves and really considered, like, what are we doing? What is our mission statement? Where are we headed in the next millennium? Which direction are we taking? Are we just going to sit here and keep saying, oh, at least we're not like the Americans? At least we're not like the Americans. Oh, Donald Trump is a pedophile. Are we just going to have more decades of that, more centuries of that? Building our identity based on the fact that we are not the Americans? Really? This is the best that we can come up with? It's fucking embarrassing. It's absolutely fucking embarrassing. That we have millions of dollars going towards medically assisted suicide with 20-year-olds killing themselves? We have people dying waiting for healthcare in the ER? Oh yeah, great, but we have free healthcare. Really? This is what we're doing as a country? This is what we're doing? Okay, well then we absolutely deserve all the ridicule that we get then. If this is the choices that we're going to make as a nation, if these are the ideas that we're going to support, then don't be surprised when the Americans and the rest of the world start laughing at you, because you rightfully deserve it. We rightfully deserve it in a lot of ways. And look, I for one, right? I take no pleasure in saying all that. The only, if you can hear a tone of happiness in my speech, it's because I'm hopeful that this will get people to wake up to realize things are actually not as good as we've been psyoped to believe. Because it is essentially a psyop. This rejection that Canadians have of reality, of the world that we live in, of what we're doing as a nation, of the ideas that we're supporting and where they lead us, it has to be shattered completely. It has to be broken. This idea that we're somehow better than other nations because what? Because we have roads? Because we have running electricity? Running water? Really? These are the standards upon which we measure ourselves by? That's not enough. We can't just be an economic zone. You don't get to just go out and say Canada first and elbows up and not follow it up with something. We're out here, we're making deals with China for some fucking reason. Our prime minister has spent the majority of his time flying around the world getting all these trade deals. He's barely in the house. He's barely taking questions. This is the choice that we've made as a nation to go along this path, to embrace this. We've let the boomers take control. The inmates are running the asylum. Really? No, this is not the Canada that I love. This is not the Canada that I grew up with, and this is not the Canada that wins. And I want to live in a Canada that wins. I want to be able to take the national stage and get gold in hockey and in God knows whatever other events, curling, what have you, and feel a sense of national pride, not just because of that win, but because of what Canada stands for. Because of who we are as a nation, who we are as a people. Because of what we'll do for our neighbors, for our loved ones, for our fellow countrymen. Because citizenship in Canada matters. Because there is something, there's a price that we pay, each and every single one of us, to accept the social contract that is to live in Canada, that has value. That we have a unique identity that is not built upon hatred of the Americans. That we have an identity of our own. We've lost the plot. We need to get back to that. We need to get back to nation building. There is no reason why we can't have fucking bullet trains going across the entirety of Canada. Our own Via Rail system, right? Our own Canadian rail system that people take, going from cities, Toronto, Montreal, and elsewhere, it shares the same railway as the commercial trains. So when you have to go in between cities, you get stopped because the commercial train takes precedent and it has to go through first. Well, we can't lay down a second set of tracks? Are you fucking kidding me? A century and a half ago, even more, we had settlers absolutely conquer this land, carve out mountains, create new passageways and new trade routes, and we in 2026 can't even do a fraction of that? Are you fucking kidding me? Where is the pride? Where is the national pride? Where are the projects? Where is the development? Where's the investment? We need to return to that. We need that national pride that doesn't come from a slogan, that doesn't come from a political party. We are in dire need of a cultural reimagining that we have not had in God knows how long. That's the only way to mitigate all of this. All of this damage that we've incurred to ourselves. Because now when people think of Canada, what do they think of? They think of Indians? They think of truck crashes, right? These semis that are plowing into people. They think of whiny bitches, because that's what a good chunk of the people are on Twitter. All these fucking Canadians coming out and wishing death upon the U.S. hockey team. Absolutely unhinged, right? Polite when it serves their needs, but absolutely evil and nasty the moment that you go against them. We're gay. It's all about the fucking trans. Like our most famous show to come out in Canada in the last like 5 years is about two hockey players butt fucking each other. This is our media. This is our national pride. This is what the stories that we want to tell. Our prime minister, he's not even technically a Canadian citizen. I mean, he is, but the man hasn't lived long enough in this country to be even considered a Canadian resident. Up until 6-7 months ago when he started his campaign, he hadn't spent like a whole year in Canada. The guy was gallivanting across the world. This guy's not Canadian. He hasn't lived here. He doesn't know who we are. He treats us like an economic zone, and that's what we're becoming. And it's absolutely disgraceful. So yeah, with all due respect, okay, to the hockey team and to the effort that they made and to Hockey Canada and that whole organization, right? I don't mean to talk down on the players when I say this. I have the utmost of respect for them. These guys are going out on the ice and they're putting their all. Okay, I can't do what they do, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So I mean no disrespect to the players or to the organization or Canada Sports or anything like that when I say this, but we deserve this loss. Or rather, we deserved the reaction that we got to this loss. Right, let me put it that way. It's not that we deserve the loss, we deserve the reaction that we got for this loss. Because a bunch of uppity Canadians came out, all the news media, talking about, oh, well, at least we're not the American. At least we're not the Americans. At least our president isn't a pedophile. As if things aren't bad enough here. And like I said, I've rattled off a bunch of different stories here that you guys are more than welcome to see. But if you want to check them out in more detail, I did episode number 49, Canada First. I went into much more detail with different stories there, so give that one a watch. But just to get back to it, you know, because had we won this game, the elbows up crowd would use this cultural victory to justify the state of affairs in Canada and that we were somehow superior to America, which could not be further from the truth. Okay, we are in desperate need of an ego check. And these losses that we've suffered, they're helping that. They're helping that, absolutely. You know, I once again, I take no pleasure in the fact that Canada is in such a sorry state of affairs and that our reputation abroad has been tarnished, to say the least, by the actions of the ruling elite and its supporters. You know, I, like many Canadians, I would much prefer to return to a time in Canada where we were seen as a peacekeeping, well-to-do, wealthy, and prosperous nation, where we were naturally proud to be Canadian and not beaten over the head with meaningless slogans. I don't appreciate our country being flooded by millions of immigrants who not only refuse to assimilate but actively harm us. I don't appreciate having our taxes be used to fund medically assisted suicide, which is affecting whites more than any other racial group. I don't appreciate 100+ Christian churches being burned with little to no response from our government. And I certainly don't appreciate state-mandated trooning, the rejection of which is met with legal penalties. There was just a case in the BC Human Rights Tribunal where a man is fined $750,000 for espousing anti-trans opinions. I mean, does anyone realize just how demoralizing it is to say you're Canadian now? Like, it's akin to a humiliation ritual. Whether it's on Twitter or when I'm gaming, and people ask where I'm from, I get almost the same reaction when I tell them Canadian, when I tell them that I'm Canadian. They laugh at me, and they ridicule me. And it's all in jest. You know, I'm not sitting there and taking it. But of the few times that it's happened, right, I tell them, nah, hey, look, man, I get it. I totally get it. We deserve to be laughed at right now. I totally understand why. I understand what the reaction why these people are having, and I take no pleasure in it, but I get it. I can put two and two together like any other Canadian can. But we're a bit of a joke right now. We're in a fucking sorry state of affairs. You don't get to say that Canada is the best country in the world when that is objectively and empirically not true. No amount of stereotypes or cultural capital can account for the lost decades of Canadian decline. No amount of elbows up will make up for what we have lost. No amount of it. You can sigh up to your heart's content. You're just not going to force reality to change. And so, with that being said, we'll move on to our other topic for today. We've had yet another MP cross the floor recently, and this is getting ridiculous at this point with the amount of MPs that are just switching sides late in their career, just completely switching their political opinions. Which, I mean, you don't do that when you're in your 50s and 60s. You don't just wake up one day being a liberal all your life, or for the last several decades anyways, and then turn conservative, or vice versa. It doesn't just happen. And if it does, then you're manic, and you need to seek help. Not made. You need to seek help. So, for those who don't know, in Canada's Westminster parliamentary system, the MPs, or the members of parliament, they're elected as individuals representing their constituents, not strictly as party delegates, which allows them to switch affiliation to better align with their personal conscience. Or evolving issues or constituency needs, so the needs of their voters, without resigning. Now, this flexibility, it allows them, or rather it prevents rigid party control, and it reduces coercion risks and maintains MP independence. And it's been a tradition for the longest time in Canada, right? This is something that has always existed. But the problem is, in the recent past couple of years, this has been used to essentially trade favor for parties, right? And there is no federal law that prohibits it, and it emphasizes free association over enforced loyalty. But at the end of the day, this is getting to a point where it's actually it's so on the nose that this is happening. And here's a chart of the floor crossing. So the bars in the blue, it's Conservatives going over to the Liberal Party, and the bars in red is Liberals turning to the Conservative Party. Now, this is just an estimate by Perplexity, so it may be missing some figures here. But even ignoring everything up until the 2020s, this little chart right here, this is 100% factually true, right? Even if all of these other numbers are wrong, this one right here is true. We've had at least 4 MPs cross the floor to the Liberal Party of Canada from the Conservatives. Now, what's the point of voting for anybody? Right? What's the point of voting in a federal election if your representative in your riding is just going to cross the aisle? Right? Well, what is the point of saying that, okay, this time I'm going to make a difference with my vote. I believe in it. I believe in this candidate. I'm going to get them the win, and they're going to get into parliament, and they're going to argue for my needs. What's the point of doing that if that person can then turn around and say, oh, you know what? I'm actually going to go to the complete opposite side. I'm going to go from the opposition to the ruling party, and I'm going to support their needs instead. If they can do that, then what is the point of voting? If they can do that without any consequences, what is the genuine point of voting? If clearly it doesn't matter. It doesn't really seem to matter. And these people, they don't give a shit. They really don't. One of the most blatant examples of this was Michael Ma, who honestly, this, I've covered this story before, but just to revisit it, Michael Ma is an MP who literally the day before he was going to cross over to the Liberal Party, he's a conservative member of parliament, or he was anyways, right, for years of his life. The day before he crossed over to the Liberal Party, he was spotted at the Conservative holiday party. He went to the Conservative holiday party and took pictures with people. He was shaking hands there. He was meeting with them, laughing, enjoying his good time, drinking it up. And then literally the next day, he goes over to the Liberal side. And apparently, and this might have been a rumor, but I heard that the Conservative Party, they did a Secret Santa that year, right, last year. And Michael Ma didn't even get his Secret Santa anything. He accepted his gift, but he didn't even give it back to anyone, which, Mike, like, fucking Christ, dude, at least do that. If you're gonna cross, like, at least do that. It's insane. And this guy has the gall to go over to the other side after saying this about them in Parliament. Like, this is one of the statements that he's made in Parliament regarding the Liberals. Quote, "The Liberals have not been playing as a referee in the great game of factions. They have chosen to play for team asset inflation, and they have made us all poorer for this decision. Young Canadians cannot get the jobs they need, the housing they deserve, or the healthcare services they are entitled to. With money printers working overtime, what future does Canada have under the Liberal feudal regime? I do not see a future here, and it worries me." So he says that. He says that, and then he goes to join them. This is not a problem of cognitive dissonance. This is not a problem of whoopsie daisies. I said some things in jest. No. You're literally saying, you are on the record saying that Canada does not have a future. To have a future with the Liberal Party in charge. And then you join them. So it doesn't mean anything. Nothing that they say in Parliament apparently means anything. Voting doesn't mean anything. What is this democracy? What is this thinly veiled, fucking parlor trick of a democratic system that we have? It's just, I genuinely am just so confused as to why we still think that we live in a democracy if this can happen, if this exists. How is this even a possibility in a country like Canada, where a politician can get up on the national stage, say all these things against the one party, then go work for them, and see absolutely nothing wrong with that? And you know, people might say, "Oh, it's politics. You know, it's a lot of words. Don't look at what they're saying. Look at what they're doing." Fine, okay, fair enough. You know, it's bread and circuses to an extent as well. It's a show. If we're not going to take them at their word, which, look, why are we even, if we're even making that argument, why are we dismissing that? Is your word not supposed to be your bond? Is your word not supposed to mean something? Do these people have no honor? Like, nothing, really? Like, this is the level at which we have our expectations set for our politicians? What kind of shit is that? Why are we letting that slide? But even if, fine, even if we live in that kind of a world, right? That in a lot of ways we do. Even ignoring all of that, okay? Why is Michael Ma? Why does he have ties to the Chinese Communist Party? The man was born in Hong Kong, comes to Canada, first of all, shouldn't even be in Parliament in the first place. If you're not born in Canada, you should not have the ability to seek public office. If you're not born in this country, you should not be able to run for your local office, whether it's your municipal government, your provincial government, your federal government. No. You don't get a position as a representation of the people in government. You do not. Absolutely not. They should take away that right. So this guy gets into Parliament, and literally weeks after, I think maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after making that cross, he's seen in China with Carney making those deals. Wow, that's strange. That's a little weird. That's very strange. Now, why this matters, right? Because Michael Ma, he's a vice chair, or was anyways, of the China Legislative Association, which has ties, from what I understand, to the CCP. Or I think if it's not that organization, then it's a different one. Yeah, he's also hanging around Senator Victor O, Jen Tang, Vincent K, all these people, and a person of interest to CSIS, Wei Chengyi. But there was an explosive expose that was done on. Let me see if I can find it. No, that's not it. Let me see if I can find the actual org. No, that was a statement. Here it is, yeah. Floor crossing MP Michael Ma was director of group explicitly named as United Front Organization in landmark Jamestown Foundation study. So this Jamestown Foundation came out with a study showing the links that certain NGOs and different organizations had to the CCP. And the Chinese Canadian Conservative Association is now identified as one of these key players as having ties to the CCP, which I believe when I said, believe it was this this first one here. Sorry, let me just see if I can find it. No, that's not it. Oh, I think it was... Let me just pull up the right post. I just want to make sure I have the right organization here. Nope, that's not it. I just had it. Well, in any case, right? He works for an organization that has ties to the CCP. Quote, the diaspora organization that backed conservative turned liberal MP Michael Ma and counts him as a former director is now explicitly named in a landmark new study as part of the Chinese Communist Party's Overseas United Front Influence Network. The same association orchestrated pressure campaigns to oust two successive conservative leaders over their stances toward Beijing, and its associates appear in Ma's own campaign finance filings. The findings raised urgent new questions about one of the most consequential floor crossings in recent Canadian parliamentary history. The Jamestown Foundation Mapping Overseas United Front Work in Democratic States, published this month, identified 575 documented organizations operating inside Canada, nearly 5 times the per capita penetration rate of the United States and the highest density among the 4 democracies surveyed. Among them, in the report section on political party-focused United Front groups, the Chinese Canadian Conservative Association is named directly alongside its liberal counterpart as part of a cross-partisan influence structure designed, in the report's own words, to ensure Beijing can address all sides, including whichever party happens to be in power at any given time. And as I covered in my episode of Mark Carney going to China, during the election, leading up to the election, the Chinese Communist Party was influencing our election via WeChat and all these other different PSYOP operations. And Mark Carney was questioned. Why is it that the Chinese want you to win? Why is it that they're gunning for you to win? Because this report came out. And he's like, oh, I have no idea. I have no idea, were his own words. I couldn't possibly know why the Chinese want me to win. And now you have an MP who has ties to an organization that is linked to the CCP crossing the floor and then going to China with Carney. I mean, Jesus Christ, how are we allowing this? You know, it's one thing for you to like cross the floor because you want a higher salary or what have you, but you legitimately have ties to a foreign adversary who should be, by all means, a foreign adversary. And this is the normal state of affairs in Canada. Where is the fourth estate? Where is the news on this? Why are these news just coming out now from an independent outlet? Why is CBC not covering this? Why is the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, the National Post is slightly covering it, but not really. But why are all these outlets just ignoring this story? Why do I have to hear it off of a fucking Substack? This is the state of our nation? This is the state of our democracy? Really? Give me a fucking break. And then his explanation for his floor crossing was, quote, "After listening carefully to the people of Markham Unionville in recent weeks and reflecting with my family on the direction of our country, I've informed the Speaker and the Leader of the Opposition that I'll be joining Prime Minister Carney in the government caucus." After listening carefully to the people of Markham Unionville? Really? Yeah, give this a listen.
Yeah.
Okay, and you were as well. Very well.
We just want our riding to
Yeah.
be a conservative riding, a conservative MP. So surprised me, just elected for a few months and crossing floor to Liberal.
You know, as many have probably heard you say, that he never said thank you to you volunteers.
Yeah, he never said, and he never did anything. Even I asked him. Normally I don't have to remind people the appreciation for your volunteers, right?
I'm so upset.
You're upset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you worked hard to get him elected. And he didn't. Did you volunteer and try and get people?
I think right now our account going the wrong side. Yeah, because the Liberal Party, lead Canadian getting the poor and the poor. So everybody.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for watching. Because these guys work really hard to, you work really hard.
Doesn't even thank his volunteers. Doesn't even thank the people that were doing the groundwork, going door to door, canvassing. This is how he treats them. This is how he treats them and their constituents. It's the most anti-Canadian behavior there is. Look at his fucking smile. Look at this fucking faggot. Zoom in on that. Look at the glee he has in his face. What an absolutely disgusting human piece of shit. You can't see anything past those eyes. Absolutely despicable. And of course the Liberals are like, oh, a win's a win. They're not questioning it. They're going along with it. It's insane. Insane. This is the state of our quote-unquote democracy. That people can just cross the floor, switch parties, have ties to CCP-linked organizations, and they're allowed to exist in politics? What the fuck are we doing? Yet another reason why Canada deserves to be clowned on the world stage. Our politicians are openly, right, maybe not super openly, but it takes a little bit of super sleuthing, but they're collaborating with them. They're collaborating with the CCP in some way, shape, or form. It's nothing short of insane. Nothing short of insane. And then of course, yeah, like he gets the white glove treatment. Goes on an all expense paid trip to China on the taxpayer dollar. God knows who he talked to there. God knows what conversations he had there. And then we have Matt Genereux, who is the latest floor crosser, who, like, this guy, this one is in some ways, honestly, I don't know about his links to foreign powers, but he's actually a legit piece of shit because he hid behind his family. This guy came out and he said months ago that he was going to step down. He was going to step down from his time, right? He's going to step down from his position. Let me see if I can find the story here. Yeah, he planned to step down in the spring. He announced his plans to resign and said he would donate his salary to local charities, which he hasn't donated. He hasn't donated a cent. He made this announcement in November that he was going to step down and donate money to his charities. Or to some charities. It is in November. We're in fucking February. It's been months. This guy's been absent from the house for the longest time. Like he's like actually just not been showing up to work because he was, you know, leading up to his announcement that he was going to resign, and then he joins the Liberals. He said, quote, "For now, my focus must turn entirely to my family and to the responsibilities that come with that." Conservative MP Matt Genereux denies coercion played a role in his resignation. In November, at the beginning of November, he said this. It's only been a couple of months, and he's already with the Liberals. What a royal piece of shit. The man hides behind his family as the reason for his stepping down. And now he's back. He's back at it again. He's back for more. Not only is he back for more, but he's back for more on the opposite side of the aisle. And he's been handsomely rewarded with a trip to India, Australia, and Japan. Which honestly, I guess I can't play the audio because the fucking stupid fucking copyright strikes. They might get me on this one. All right, let me see if I can pull up this post instead. Oh, and of course, just the same as Michael Ma, they went to his office and nobody's there. Nobody's there. Nobody's there. And also, they made this announcement at an airport. They didn't make it at his office. They didn't make it in Parliament. They didn't make it anywhere. They made it at an airport. Part of that is, apparently, this is the rumor that's going around online. Part of that is because it restricts what kind of media they can have there. I believe that was the going story because of the security checks and whatnot. But I could be wrong on that. But that's what I heard some people say. And now he gets to go on a trip to India, Australia, and Japan. Great. What a fucking stand-up guy. So cool. So cool that our politicians can just do that. Let me see if I can find video of his announcement. Or I guess this would be his resignation clip. Oh no, this is his yeah, this is his resignation letter. Quote, "For those who have reached out, I am deeply grateful for your friendship and concern. However, I ask that you please not attempt to contact my family during this time. I ran in the last election hopeful that Canadians would put their faith in a team led by Pierre's Conservatives, offering a chance to change Canada's perception in our own country and around the world. I wanted desperately to play a role in that vision. Although the outcome was not what I anticipated, I have a great admiration for the many remarkable individuals who were elected to the House of Commons on both sides of the aisle. With all this in mind, earlier I spoke with our opposition whip, a colleague and friend for whom I have the utmost respect, to inform him of my decision to resign as a member of parliament. It was not an easy decision, but it is, I believe, the right one. For now, my focus must turn entirely on my family and to the responsibilities that come with that." Oh my god. Oh, sorry, this was in... My apologies. I thought this was his recent announcement. This was the announcement that he made in 2025, or in November. My apologies. And then only days after this, right, days after he said that he would step away from his role in the Conservative Party and go to the Liberals, he voted against the Conservatives. The guy's been absent for months, and his first return back is he votes against a Conservative motion. How fucking shameless can you be? How fucking shameless can you be? And then when you go to his X account, it's locked. It's locked. His tweets are protected. God forbid people start scanning his tweets and looking for inconsistencies in his story. God forbid. And remember that Rosemary Barton clip that I played at the beginning of this whole episode? That's in relation to this story. Right? It's talking about why he crossed the floor. Let's give that another listen.
To be elected again, but there's also, the reality that some people in Alberta are kind of warming up to the prime minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his writing is starting to move in that direction as well.
Rosie, thank you. The CBC's chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, live in Ottawa. Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, is speaking to reporters in Montreal. Let's listen.
Just because it's all made up anyway.
Right? Notice the statements that she was making there. Maybe, potentially. Not saying anything of certainty. She's just adding some color commentaries, saying maybe the reason that he crossed is because people in Alberta, right, are now all of a sudden somehow agreeing with Carney, even though they're literally trying to secede cede from the union. Which, okay, fine, even if we ignore that, but maybe somehow, maybe in this imaginary world we live in, people in Alberta are now starting to turn around to Carney. That's the reason for his floor crossing, is what they give. All this speculation, because obviously, you know, they can't know the truth in his heart. They can't read his mind. You know, they can only work off his public statements. Okay, sure. But why are you just making shit up on air and then saying, quote, it's all made up anyway? Right? With the added context of that, it kind of makes a bit of a difference in terms of what they were saying. Right? Why is the chief political correspondent of our state-sponsored media saying it's all made up anyway? Why is she saying that? Why has the CBC not come out and said something against this? Why hasn't Parliament pressured them? Why hasn't any other news media outlet, corporate press, why haven't they come out and covered this? This is their fucking job. Even if especially if it's a nothing burger, if what they were talking about was, I don't know, yesterday's lunch order or God knows whatever, right? If they have the proof, if they have the transcript, if they have the audio, just release it. Release it. Just say something. But nope. Now we just have to speculate. Now we have to assume that we have no idea what they're talking about. But it kind of sounds like it. It doesn't look good. Like whatever speculation people have, it doesn't look good that our national state broadcaster is saying this about members of parliament crossing over to the other side. It's not a good look. It really is not a good look. Right? And the ultimate reason why this matters, it's not because I so desperately want the Conservatives to win and every single MP crossing the floor is an extra L added in their category. The reason why this matters is because the Liberals are only a few seats away from a majority in the House. Right? It's not because I hate the Liberals. It's because this fundamentally alters the way that our democratic process functions. Okay, because it's one thing to gain a majority in the House via a federal election. You know, then you have to have a campaign. Then you have to present some ideas. You have to go and do debates. There is some work that actually has to be done to curry favor, right? To get the supporters on your side, right? There's an exercise in democracy that comes along with that, which honestly, I'm not all too partial to democracies these days if this is what we fucking get. But even that aside, right? That's a topic for another day. There's a difference with contesting your region during an election, your influence during an election. And it's a whole other thing to get a majority after the election because you're trading favors. Right? Because what happens is anytime that these MPs cross the floor, they are telling their constituents to go fuck themselves. They are objectively saying, look, I know that you supported me and my ideas and the party that I stand for, the work that I do, the words that I say, the votes that I put in. I know that you guys have that support for me. I understand that. But I'm gonna ignore all of that. I'm gonna ignore my volunteers, all the hardworking people that have day jobs that took time out of their day to come and volunteer for me. I'm gonna ignore all of that and just go to the opposite side. I'm gonna take all of your wishes and all of your demands and throw them right in the trash. That's exactly what these people are doing. I heard your concerns. I understand your concerns. I just don't care. I just don't care. I want a higher salary. I want connections to more powerful people. I want some extra benefits. So I'm gonna do what's expedient for me and my family and my own, and betray you and betray your wishes. Right? And so when you have shit like this happen without any consequences, okay, when you have things like this happen, you're not only undermining yourself, but you're undermining the entire political process in Canada. I mean, for my American friends, this is the equivalent of AOC turning Republican tomorrow. Right? This is the exact same thing. Of somebody that's been diehard Democrat for all of their life, just tomorrow waking up all of a sudden and turning Republican. This is the exact same thing. Okay, as I said before, adults in their 40s don't just wake up one morning and suddenly change their entire political mindset overnight. Okay, especially not so drastically as to support the opposing party. Right? It's one thing if people make the jump from liberal to NDP and NDP to liberal. They're both left-leaning parties, or even to the Green Party, which I don't even know why the fuck they exist. They have one seat in the House. Nobody gives a shit about them. They're just there as a spoil sport. But it's one thing to go in between parties that are like, they have some kind of political allegiance. They're all, leftward leaning. But to go to the opposite side of the aisle, to go to the conservatives or to the liberals or vice versa, I mean, you're talking about a complete flip in priorities, like a complete 180. And the corporate media have tried to frame these floor crossings as a failure on the Conservative Party of Pierre's leadership, which, fine, fair enough. You could make that case. He lost the election, he lost his own riding, and they haven't been able to adequately address the needs of conservatives in Canada for a very long time now. However, does anyone else find it strange that within months of each other, we have these floor crossings where the MPs are directly benefiting from it, as if they were promised something in return for their loyalty? Which, Carney comes out and he says, no, there's been no quid pro quo, there's been no discussions of the benefits that they'll get if they join the party. But why is the onus on the Conservatives? Why is the focus on Pierre Poilievre's supposed failing as a leader? Shouldn't it be pressured? Shouldn't the focus be on the Liberals for enticing these MPs to not only abandon their party, but to reject the wishes of their constituents? I mean, what kind of a party are they building? What kind of a coalition are they building if they're taking traitors in? Because that's effectively what you are. You're telling your constituents to go fuck themselves. Your vote doesn't matter. I don't give a shit. I'm going to look out for me. And this is the party that you're building? Why is the media not covering that angle? The answer is simple. Of course, they want to curry the favor of the liberal establishment, so they're not going to go against it. But these MPs come out and they say, I am fulfilling the wishes of my constituents, and they're met with protest every time. In Parliament, they'll proudly stand and profess their disdain for the Liberal Party and how they've actively destroyed Canada. And then the next day they join that exact same side that is doing all these negative things they said they were doing. This just leads me to believe that Canada is in fact not a democracy. It's a democracy in name only. Yeah, we have the voting system. Yes, we have elections, sure, but it's all a kind of a fucking joke if this just gets to happen. Like I said before, Canadians like to feel proud that unlike the US, we have a whole string of parties and not just a dichotomy of two. When in reality, everybody knows the NDP and the Green Party is a fucking joke. It's really only the Liberals and the Conservatives that matter. Okay, the rest are just there to trade favors with the ruling party and help prop up their agenda, just like Jagmeet Singh did with the NDP for all those years. Right, which leaves, once again, the Liberals and the Conservatives. And after all these floor crossings, it leads me to believe that switching parties is a matter of just what personal benefits can be gained for the person that's crossing. No consideration of their voters, no consideration for their riding, only a selfish desire for a better seat in the halls of power. And look, one of the ways that this can be solved, it's actually quite easy, right? One of the ways that this problem can be solved is by triggering a by-election the moment that there's a floor crossing, meaning that the person who is looking to switch parties, right, for their riding, you host an election, a snap election, real quick, right, within a month or two, ideally within a month or a couple of weeks, and you put their seat up to a vote. Does the community still have that support? Because that would give a solid feedback signal to gut check the politician and say, okay, so you say your constituents have your back? You say that your constituents agree with your vision? They agree with your switching teams? Okay, let's put that to the test. Let's give them a chance to vote and see how they feel about it. And there have been motions over the years that have tried to make this law. None of them have passed, and the Conservatives have voted against it. So they're just as guilty on this too. But realistically, like until something like that becomes law in the Canadian government, our democracy doesn't matter. It's democracy in name only. And so until that's binding law, I have no reason to believe that we live in a democracy. If the representatives of our parties can do shit like this, I mean, what else am I led to believe? So yeah, look, that's about all I wanted to say on that issue, and I understand, I get it. This is not the not the white pill we wanted, or not the it isn't at all the white pill that we wanted. It's actually quite black pilling this whole story of just once again going over the endless L's that Canada has self-imposed. You know, it's not as if like somebody's putting a gun to our head and forcing us to do all this. No. We chose this path. We chose to elect these people. We chose these policies. And I'm not saying that some conservative and fucking buttfuck Moncton, right, specifically chose for Carney to be prime minister. But as a nation, right, when I say that, as a nation, this is the choice that we made. These are the policies that we support. These are the cultural ideas that we support. This is the social contract that we all agreed to import infinity Indians, to have skyrocketing housing prices, food insecurity at an all-time high. Right? We chose at the ballot box. And this is what we get. This is what we get 10 plus years later. And until people realize that, okay, until people actually start thinking, okay, first of all, voting kind of seems like a fucking joke these days. But more importantly, we have to step up and do more than just that. Get active. Get involved locally. I'm sure there's a hockey arena in your town that's looking to be saved, or a church that was recently burned down, or what have you. Right? There's a million ways to get involved besides just watching content creators like me or going out and voting once every 6 years or however many months we have until the next election. But we have lost the plot. Canada has lost the plot. We need to actively seek a different way of life. We have to change. We are at a turning point, and if we don't change, if we don't fundamentally reorganize and restructure the Canadian way of life, what it means to be a Canadian, if we don't discover a sense of identity that does not rely us on rejecting the Americans as a core of our identity, then we're lost. It's as simple as that. So Canada is, at the moment, unfortunately, it's a cautionary tale. Our way of development and our way of life, it is to be avoided. Whether it's our healthcare system, the way that we treat the transsexuals and the flags that we fly on government buildings and police precincts and schools, these ideas that we support, we need a complete restructuring of that. We need to foster a sense of national identity. We can't just coast on the coattails of our reputation. That reputation was built by decades and decades and decades of hardworking Canadians, chipping away at it slowly until the world eventually saw us as a well-to-do, well-meaning, prosperous nation, a peacekeeping nation. And now we're a fucking joke. We're the butt of every joke when it comes to North America. So yes, this L that we got in hockey, overdue. Overdue. Canada's been overdue for a gut check, for an ego check for the longest time. And no amount of elbows up bullshit, no amount of fucking psyoping, no amount of lies is ever going to correct the record. We have to do the work. We have to get back to what it means to really be a Canadian. We can't just become an economic zone. So, yeah, with that, I guess we'll end off today because I really I don't know what else I can say. And on that note, we actually on the show for the first time got a donation the other day. So we'll give that a read as we do at the end of every show. But before we even do that, for anyone that wants to support the show, as per always, liking, commenting, and subscribing, ideally on Rumble, because that's a main platform that I'm going to be focusing on. That would be the best way to do it. Otherwise, if you want to check out all the other platforms that we're at, you can find it in the description of every episode or in my X bio, which is bio.link/whitepill. All the links are there. Join the Telegram chat. We have more people joining. I got YouTube, Instagram, and a lot more coming down the pipeline. Merch is still in the works. Stay tuned. There's plenty more to come. And yeah, we're going to have a show later tonight also at 6 p.m. With my co-host, Mr. Fireside Talks, where we're going to be talking about the convoy. It's been the 4-year anniversary, I believe, since the Emergencies Act was applied. It's only a couple days ago that the anniversary came about, so we're going to be talking all about that. But without further ado, yeah, let's get into our donations. We had 2 sent in. Let me just see here. Bear with me for 1 second. Really? It doesn't show... God, why doesn't it show the actual text of the donation? I don't understand. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I gotta log into my desktop to see it. Bear with me for 1 moment. Okay, so the first donation came from Taylor Reese. Question, do you think abortion should be banned after a certain stage, or do you think abortion should be allowed in all stages? Jesus Christ. I'd sum up my feelings on abortion in the last 5 minutes of an episode. What a question to ask. Regarding abortions, at the end of the day, you are murdering a life. And I used to have a very different opinion on this in my early 20s than I do now. But suffice to say, human life is sacred and should be treated as such. as much as possible. And so in regards to abortion, it is now seen as this kind of extension of women's liberation, which is really disgusting in a way. But fundamentally, I believe that abortions should be made to like as close to illegal as possible. They really should only be done as a complete last resort, if in like the edge cases, because this is not all abortions. From what I understand, the majority of them it's literally just because the women are not quote unquote ready to have a baby. Which, look, if you're not ready to have a baby, then why are you having unprotected sex? And people are gonna come out and say, "Oh my God, how could you? What about rape victims and yada yada yada?" You ever see that video of that man that's talking to during an abortion debate, and he asks the woman, I forget there was a. Let me see if I can find that clip. Hold on, abortion debate, rape. There was a man, oh, I'm not going to be able to find the clip now, but there was a man that essentially got hit with the classic, like, oh, what about rapes? What about like incestuous rape of an abortion? And it turns out the man himself was a product. His mother got raped and then he was born. So he posed the question. He's like, so do you think that my life should be forfeit? Do you think that I should have been killed because I stand here before you? Right? If a baby comes out as a result of rape, is its life less valuable for some reason? It's still a human life. So I genuinely don't buy that argument. Right? That's trying to tug on your heartstrings and say, what about in the case of rape? Yeah, it's still a baby. It's still a baby and its life should be preserved. And you can quote me on that. I'm sure that there'll be a clip of this floating around of someone trying to have a fucking gotcha moment years down the line. But with all due respect, it's a human life. It's a human life that you're ending. This isn't like this whole clump of cells. Oh, at what stage does it reach conscious? I don't care about any of that. I don't care about any of that. The moment that the sperm hits the egg, that's a potential human life right there. And any attempt made to snuff out that life is murder. Okay, if you're talking on the complete like edge cases of 0.00 whatever percent of cases where the mother's life is in danger, I mean, well, like, you can't do a C-section? You're telling me we don't have the technology or the medical tools available, the expertise available to save that woman's life, that we have to end the life of the baby? And how many cases of those even exist? You know, compare that to like how many women are getting abortions in their 20s just because I want to still live my life. I want to go to university and get a job. Like, really? Motherhood is about one of the most beautiful experiences that a human can have. And we're treating it as if it's some fucking disease. As if the baby is a problem to be dealt with and not a blessing. So I guess, yeah, I mean, if that's coherent enough, that's my stance on it. I want abortion to be limited as much as possible. I certainly don't want tax dollars to go in towards that. If making it illegal is part of it, sure. I mean, that just means that people that want abortions or need them, they're going to go elsewhere where it is legal, or they're going to find black market means to do it. Which, yeah, like abortions have existed since the dawn of time. Right? That this is not a new phenomena. This is something that's existed, you know, centuries before. It's nothing new. And in those circumstances, yeah, I guess it's a tragic story in some way, shape, or form. But you know what the decision is regarding like legality, making it illegal, passing a law, I honestly cannot say. But I will say this with confidence. I really, really, really do not appreciate how abortions are seen as this act of taking back your freedom, your sovereignty as a woman, I think that's disgusting. Because you're reveling in the fact that you're killing a newborn, you're killing a baby, and some of these women are. Some of these women are. And look, if you need more evidence, just go watch any interview or any talk with the women that wanted to have an abortion and for one reason or another either didn't make the decision or it didn't take and they had to keep the baby, how they feel after that. Go and see and hear their life stories. For me, that was partly convincing. Like that's part of what really made me change my mind. Because motherhood is something to be celebrated, and we've done nothing but just trample it to the ground and make it seem as this chore. When bringing a human onto this plane is bringing another life onto this planet, it is about one of the most beautiful things that humans can do. And I want to see more of that. So yeah, I think that abortions should be as restricted as possible. So that hopefully that answers your question. And they had another question for me. This is also from the same sender, which I don't know why you use different names. It's kind of strange. But in any case, your question was for Taylor Reese asks, do you believe white privilege and systemic racism exist? If I'm gonna answer that question, we need to define those terms. From my understanding, white privilege is this idea that your whiteness, right, your proximity to whiteness, which doesn't necessarily even mean that you have to have white skin, but like if you grew up in if you're black and you grew up in like a suburban area away from the hood and all that, then you have like a degree of whiteness. If you have both parents, if you're not disabled, if you're not trans, like you have a degree of whiteness to you, which is fucking insane. These people, the amount of mental gymnastics they do to make their worldview a reality is nothing short of insane. But this definition of white privilege, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. This idea that somehow or another white men are afforded some extra care or a leniency by law, or not even by law, but even like by social contract, that this could not be further from the truth. Because first of all, it's not all white men, right? When people look back on history and they look, oh my God, all these old white men that were ruling over all these kingdoms and all these, all these countries, doing all that colonization. Yeah, the majority of them were fucking bricklayers, but the majority of them were out actually going and dying in the wars. The majority of them are shoveling the shit so that society doesn't have to. Right? When people look back on history and they say, oh my God, all those old white men that had all that privilege. Yeah, it's like a point whatever percentage of the white men. The rest of them were working. The rest of them were working to build up that society. You think they were getting privilege? Really? The serfs? The everyman? Really? Bill down the street who's a plumber, making sure that your pipes don't fucking leak? He's got white privilege? Really? Fuck off. Fuck right off with that shit. Unbelievable. No. White privilege does not exist. This idea that they've wanted to push, that somehow being white affords you this. I mean, there's no better example of it than I'd love to play it, but I'd get copyrighted. Beavis and Butthead, I think in a recent movie that they did, they covered the idea of white privilege. There's a scene where they go to a university or college, whatever, and they get told that because they're white, they have a certain privilege to them. So they're like, oh, I have white privilege. I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. So they immediately leave the class, go to the cafeteria, start stealing shit, and they use it as an excuse. Oh, I have white privilege. I'm privileged. I can do this. I can do that. And it's like, yeah, well, this is what you're this is what you're saying. You're saying that white people have carte blanche with society, which we don't. We really don't. And also, what do you mean by white? Like what Which whiteness? Italians? Germans? Polish? Ethnic Canadians? Americans? Who? You're putting whiteness into this like all-encompassing category. Which of us is the one that is privileged? You know, it's one thing for a well-off rich white kid to go to a university on his daddy's connections, right, and to have a certain privileges afforded to them because his dad or whomever donates millions to the university. Their name is known to everyone. That's that kind of privilege. That's just being rich. That's called just being rich. But the guy that lives in a small town coming into university, paying on his own dime, taking out loans to do this, right? Maybe his parents are able to support him somewhat, but him working his way through university, what white privilege does he have? So I reject that notion. I reject that definition completely. Because what it does is it sets up white people as a monolith, as if we all have the same lived and shared and lived experience. We don't. We really don't. Just like all blacks don't have the same experience. Just like all Asians don't have the same experience. Just like all browns don't have the same experience. We're not a monolith. And any attempt to put us in the same category is just, it's beyond retarded. It is, you know what it is? It is a sign of mental immaturity. Like you literally do not have enough IQ points to bridge the gap and to understand that not all white people are the same and not all white people have the same experience. To lump us all into this one fucking ball, you're retarded if you truly believe that. Seek help. And does systemic racism exist? It did at one point. Yeah, there were actual laws on paper banning black people from using the water fountain or the pools or what have you. Does it exist now? No. Not against black people anyway. Systemic racism now exists against white people though, for some reason. The reason I can say that confidently is because, as I've shown on this show before, there are jobs now, especially in universities in Canada, where you can't apply or you will not be selected for if you are a white man. Even government jobs, like city government jobs that I've posted on my X feed before, they will consider applicants that are non-white and not male and not straight before they consider a straight white man. So does the idea of the left, the left's idea of systemic racism against black exist today? No. No, it actually goes the other way. They're the ones that are getting privileges first, and everyone else gets to eat the scraps. Because of DEI or what have you. Right? Name a policy. So now it's more advantageous to be a female minority and gay than it does to be male. Which is a very strange way to go about fixing the issue, because now they've course corrected so heavily that it's now gone into the next direction. Now those people are getting oppressed, which I don't even know how you circle that square and can sleep soundly at night. The level of cognitive dissonance here is insane. So to answer your question, do I believe that white privilege and systemic racism exist? Not in the way that the left has pictured it. Okay, I certainly haven't had any privileges extended to me because I'm white. I've had to work my ass off to get to where I'm at. Okay, my family came to this country with nothing in our pockets. Literally sleeping on fucking newspaper. Okay? When we came here in our apartment because we didn't have furniture. We worked our asses off to get to where we are. And so I reject this notion of white privilege or systemic racism. Anybody that believes in these things, it is not worth engaging with them with a legitimate argument or a discussion. It is really indicative of a brain dead mindset. Like they lack the IQ points to have a coherent worldview, let alone a coherent argument. And so I'm going over time. So with that, we'll finish up. And once again, if you ever want to have a donation read aloud, send me some Maple bucks on PayPal or crypto, whichever one. And yeah, thank you all again for making it this far, for watching the show if you still are. We'll be back again, once I said before, at 6 p.m. later today. And without further ado, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful White Pill Wednesday, and I'll see you later.